Like, none of those fads would happen. None of that
like
crap
the
would
swing
be given.
revival. The 2-year-long swing revival.
Yeah, like, what the ass? Like, dude, none of that stuff would be given the time of day now, you know? And then, like, when you see the sense of entitlement in some of those guys, because, like, I went on tour with, like, multiple bands, like, you know, now, Gin Blossoms, Marcy Playground, Sugar Ray, all these guys, and, like, some of them were, like, grateful, and they were just, like, so happy to be there, and you could tell that they like maintained a healthy mental attitude. And then some of them were just, like, the darkest, like, victimized, just like, like, you know, none of this is the way it used to be. And it's like, well, duh, like, you know.
Hey, pals, how you doing? That's a fun clip. Today we're talking to Mr. Sean Winchester. He came to us from Los Angeles, California, or thereabouts. Sean's a drummer. He played with, he was a drummer in Everclear from 2010 to 2016. He's also played with Buckcherry. His resume says he plays with Strung Out, which I didn't manage to ask him. We ran out of time before we got there, but we got into a bunch of stuff that was kind of unexpected, so this is quite a fun one. I think you're going to enjoy it. Oh, I should say played with, not plays with. I don't know that he is their current drummer. I don't want to give you false information. I do know that he's got a band called Giants of Rome with, I think, the Strung Out bass player. How you doing anyway? We're like 3/4 of the way through 2020, the epic year of all epic years. It's a sunny day here. Things are, yeah, I don't know. It's nice to see the sun. I'm like running out of days. I smashed a window in my house. We've got storm windows, these like old pane windows. I was trying to kill a hornet with my shoe this summer, which, I mean, everyone I tell that story to is like, obviously you shouldn't have done that. But they were Chuck Taylors. I figured they'd be light enough. But so I smashed a pane, and I'm like, you know, at a certain point, it's going to be too cold to just take the storm window off and have a hole in the side of the house while I fix it. So maybe that'll be today. What else can I tell you? In other news, I've been watching the escalating situation, tensions on the south shore of Nova Scotia. Because of the indigenous moderate livelihood fishery with the local I mean, what do I say, like white guy fisherman? I don't want to get myself in trouble here, but all I'm going to say is I'm amazed at our ability to want to enforce certain rules but not others as a society when it comes to these kinds of sensitive issues. Heard the police chief say, like, property damage, arson, assault, not police issues. Anyway, that's not what you're here for. I'm playing a show this weekend. If you're in St. John, come see the Exhortations. December, Friday the 23rd at the 5 and Dime. Here we go, Sean Winchester. Enjoy. Check us out, Learn Drums on Instagram, learndrums.ca for show notes, etc. Cool. How you doing? Thanks for doing this at my weird time.
Yeah, no, I'm like, I love talking about drums and reminiscing about the good old days of, performing and stuff.
Yeah. Do you think that's, well, I don't know. I'm like skipping ahead here, but do you think that's coming back? What's the status on that where you are?
I don't know. I'm at a steady 1 gig per month at this point, so that's pretty cool.
Right, and at that 1 gig per month, what's the situation?
Like, it's a lot. I know there's a lot to answer there, but like, people wearing masks, reduced capacity, every drive-in, blah blah blah. Like,
yeah, basically, it like, because nobody knows what they're doing, but they're still trying to be safe. So like, every interaction is awkward and reduced capacity, or like, like, is it okay to take off my mask right now? Can I do it now? No. Yeah. No. Fist bump, elbow.
Yeah.
Just
oh
high,
yeah. The elbow's safe.
Yeah. Like, it's like, it's so comical. I know it's sad and it's completely miserable, but it's like, I can't help but just, it is comical. And hopefully we can look back on all of this and laugh, like,
yeah, right. You kind of have to. I know, like, I'm lucky in that it hasn't really impacted my life. And obviously it's been annoying. There have been, I didn't leave home very much for a couple of months, but otherwise, like, things have been sort of fine, relatively speaking. Like, I don't know anyone who's gotten sick. I haven't, there hasn't really been an outbreak near me. There's like definitely, I wore a mask all day. I don't like wearing a mask, but I do it. And so we're now at the phase 2. So I'm in Atlanta, Canada, and we have what they're calling the Atlantic bubble. So our 3 provinces, if you come into the region, you have to quarantine. Or else there's like pretty stiff fines. I don't know what they are. But for that reason, we've had relatively low cases. Yeah. And so life has gone back to sort of normal. Yeah. Like, everything is still weird, but like, people eat at restaurants, the tables are farther apart. You can go in, you got to wear your mask till you get to your table, then you're allowed to take it off. Servers are wearing masks and gloves. Shows are starting to happen again. That's like kind of touch and go. I went to see some friends of mine play a jazz trio a month and a half ago, probably, and it was like,
tell me your experience with that, because like, I've only done, like, private weddings and like, stuff like that. So I haven't done like a public performance yet.
Really? Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Well, this was like, to be honest, like, we went in, and while it was like so nice, like so good for the soul, just to be back in a room, you're also kind of looking around and being like, is this okay? And the rule was like, you were assigned to a table. You had to sit at your table. Masks were recommended but not enforced if you were not sitting there. And that was in sort of the gray area of the summer. The government here just last week put in a rule that any indoor public place, masks are required.
Okay.
So, but like, I have a show tomorrow night at a venue that was new. Like, I don't think it had quite gotten to the point of being ready to open in March, which is when everything shut down here. And so now I think they just are opening up. And so this mask rule went in to effect on Thursday. It's now Tuesday. And like, I'm playing guitar and singing at this thing. I'm not drumming. So it's like, am I going to have to wear a mask the whole time? I don't think so, but I don't know. They have the plexiglass face shield or what?
No way, dude. Like, every time I've played with a band, none of the performers are wearing masks. I feel like that's just, can you imagine playing drums and wearing a mask? Like,
oh God, no, you wouldn't, like, and much as I don't want to be like this guy, but it's like, you wouldn't be able to breathe, and it would get so sweaty.
But it's true. You wouldn't. It sucks. Like, I don't know how fucking Joey Jordison did it. Like, God bless him, I guess, like, but no, if I don't have to, I'm not gonna. And, nobody like, stopped me mid performance to be like, hey, you're not wearing a mask, like,
right.
so I'm not gonna do it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is kind of the other funny thing too of like just wearing them going to local businesses being like, normally when I walk into the liquor store, they tell me to like take off my hood and like they don't want, they don't want you covering your face, and now you have to.
Yeah. I don't know. I think all of the new things that we have to do to try to protect each other and ourselves, I think all of that is honestly like the least of our concern.
Oh, no kidding. My God. It's like if that's all I have to complain about.
Yeah. I think at this point it's like what the economic fallout is going to be from here on out and how that's going to affect everyone for a very long time. I mean, it's just bananas. Like I have no idea. I'm grateful that I still have the, the opportunities that I have and that like are being offered to me when things open back up for Los Angeles and for the United States, that I'm putting dates on my calendar for 2021. Like I'm grateful for that. Cause like I know a lot of dudes, professional guys who are just like, but right now, like, I knew that I was going to have this podcast and I was thinking like, what the crap are we going to talk about? and like, this is actually a very like cathartic, conversation because like, dude, it's not good out there right now. And like, but to talk about music and drumming and like the things I've done and the things I'm doing right now, it's good to do still, like it's almost like it's a time of mourning, but also a time of like, that things still are happening. So it's okay,
Yeah. In whatever way, because like the thing that, the thing that I have learned at various points in my life is like, I can't stop, like music doesn't make sense for me to do for lots of like mostly financial reasons, but at various points, like something happens for me, my band broke up. That was like my thing for a long time. Then you're like, well, am I going to do something else now? Right. But you realize like you have to do it. Like I can't stop.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And like it when the machine like, grinds to a halt, and by machine, I mean like, the like,
world.
And as a microcosm, the music business, when the music business grinds to a halt, like in what capacity does everyone want to do music in, is like, because at a certain point you're kind of looking like adult if you're like, out there on social media still being like, can't stop, won't stop, things are happening.com. You're just like, dude, shut your face, like relax.
Yeah,
like
no one believes you.
Like, yeah, it's like, hey, guess what? Like you can just do this because you like it and because you enjoy music. Like stop acting like you're hustling 24/7. Like just knock it off. Dude, I just got done with like my first 9-to-5 job in like a decade. Whoa. I just got back from like day 3. And like I'm totally cool with it because it helps pay for my recording studio that I'm gonna go, on my day off, and I've still got tracks to record and students to teach.
Yep.
And, like that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And it was really hard for me to accept that, I had to pick up a day job again. But at the same time, it's like, it's just what you have to do.
Those bills don't go away. Yeah. And if your life is gigging, like if that is your revenue source.
Yeah. Like I was touring for the past 10 years and now I'm like playing cover band stuff. And like now I work at a aquatic garden, tending to koi fish and, Buddhist palm lilies. And it's actually pretty rad.
It sounds really like calm. Like it would be a great place to be right now.
It totally is. I didn't think I would like koi fish, but these little things are cute. And the bigger ones are like, they have little personalities and I like them very much.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I work at I teach, I'm like the everything guy, but it's like a nonprofit performing arts school here in St. John. So it's like in an old church. It was, most of the building is from the 1880s, although the church part of it was rebuilt in the 60s. And it was like sort of, the community of people using it grew smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. In the early 2010s, there weren't that many of them left, and the building was expensive. So this was before I lived here in town. But this like after school theater program was looking for a bigger home, and I don't know how they ever landed into this building, but they were renting it for a while, and eventually they took over the building. So it's like this crazy old building. But I started working there a year and a half ago after we moved to St. John without a plan. I had been living in Halifax, Nova Scotia, where I was going to ask you about this because I think you were going to play there.
Yeah.
Buckcherry was supposed to play the Marquee in like May.
Yeah. So I think I did play I played with Buckcherry in Halifax. Was it at the Marquee?
I don't know. That's like the big club there.
Maybe 2 years ago, I want to say.
Okay.
Because since then, I've since left Buckcherry, but I know Buckcherry was probably scheduled to play there, but I think their guitarist Kevin Rentgen just left the band and they just got a new guitarist, but I don't even know what their schedule is right now.
Okay. No, I didn't. Yeah, that's what I was, it was one of my questions I was going to ask you, but I know that was a show that was scheduled to happen there in the spring and then didn't have, like May was going to be Buckcherry, Jimmy World, which then got like pushed back to September or something and then, just didn't happen. But, anyhow, yeah, we moved here. My wife got a job. I moved back to Halifax for my band, which then broke up.
What was the name of your band?
Oh, we were called Glory Glory. We were an indie pop band at Halifax. Anyway,
cool.
So my wife got a job here in St. John, and we moved back. I kind of moved back without a plan. And, I was kind of sour about it, to be honest. I was like, I'd been gigging in Halifax. My band split up, but I was like, gigging with other people, getting out and doing it a bit, but like not enough to really justify the two of us being there. And so anyway, I got this job here and I'm like working the front desk and I was like so pissed off about that too, to be honest. Especially because it's like crazy because it's a nonprofit that's chronically just like understaffed, trying to do too many things. The people who've run it forever, one of whom happened to, the reason I got hired was because the founder of the organization left, and there's no like guidebook for how to run it. There's just like I just have them on Facebook, so I just message them that way. It's like, I can't do that. I can't run it that way. But anyway, but the flip side of it is that I have access to the space, which is cool. Like there's a pipe organ and things.
Cool.
Yeah. But anyway, when, the last 6 months, when like March happened, I was no longer cursing my fortune. I was glad that I just had a job.
Man, I understand. It's like it's all justifiable, and it's totally okay to like have these feelings. I think that's something that musicians like. I mean, that's like our eternal struggle, is like the feeling that we need to stay relevant or like stay on top or, like don't fall back. And, that can be a healthy thing to stay motivated. But at the same time, like it almost creates a sense of like entitlement that we have to be careful, like it's like, no, like all I do is music now. You're like, okay, like that's a good motivator, but like you have to be realistic, especially when you're a part of a generation. I don't know how old you are, but like my generation has now seen more than one economic depression and a worldwide pandemic, like, and sorry, but like the music industry is like very unstable, and like we all have to just like do what we can, and like just thank our lucky stars that we're not homeless.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no kidding. Well,
like, yeah.
This is the other thing, and like so we bought a house in October. And really, like my wife bought a house, and I pay half. But
yeah.
yeah, I was not being given any loans or mortgages. But yeah, I mean, so we had a comfortable place to play. I got like my room where I have my gear set up. But you're right, it is like a crazy thing, and we have. So I'm 38. So I also came up during the time of like, I remember, like really becoming aware of music in the 90s when the music industry was the richest it's ever been.
Yeah.
And also like the prevailing attitude was like, fuck this, like fuck major labels, fuck like selling out. And then 10 years later, it's like, you better hope you can sell out. Like,
yeah.
There's nothing left for you.
Yeah, good luck trying to sell out, bro.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I mean, and I was very lucky to be in a 90s band and like listen to the stories and the precautionary tales that they had to tell, like being in Everclear, listening to Art speak about how money was shooting up out of the ground.
I bet.
I mean, think about all the bands that were given a team and were being signed like during the 90s. Like, I mean, everything from like Squirrel Nut Zippers to like, Save Ferris to Korn to like, dude, none of those bands would get signed. Like, none of those fads would happen. None of that
like
crap
the
would
swing
be given.
Revival. The
Like,
2-year-long swing revival.
Yeah, like, what the ass? Like, dude, none of that stuff would be given the time of day now, and then, like, when you see the sense of entitlement in some of those guys, because, like, I went on tour with, like, multiple bands, like, now, Gin Blossoms, Marcy Playground, Sugar Ray, all these guys, and like some of them were like grateful, and they were just like so happy to be there, and you could tell that they like maintained a healthy mental attitude. And then some of them were just like the darkest, like victimized, just like like none of this is the way it used to be. And it's like, well, duh, like, So I don't know. It's like, you know, now we've had to we have to roll with so many punches that it's just like, all right, okay, everybody let's just relax. Let's hold hands. Let's just get through this and make some music that we like, you know?
Yeah. So
I think it's okay.
Right. Wild. I have a sort of a flow written out, and now I'm my brain is shooting off. I read somewhere that you have ADHD. I also have ADHD.
Yeah.
Do you think that factored into how'd you start playing drums? That's where I frequently like to start.
When
I shouldn't even say frequently like to. It's where it seems like a logical place to start.
It's
fine.
It's great.
It's the best question.
It is the best. You start with the best, and then it's all downward spiraling from there. It became my thing when I was 14 going on 15, and I was just a lost cause, and I was getting into so much trouble in school that my parents had no idea what to do with me. And then I basically was forced to work for my parents to get enough money to get my first drum set. And then I was grounded for the rest of my high school life.
So you had lots of time to practice.
Yeah.
How did you know though? How would you, following that journey, so how do you know that the drums are going to be the thing that's going to, when you say you had to work to make the money for the drums, why was it the drums?
My parents, I was in the back of my parents' car when they just picked me up from a police station this is when I was 14. And
whoa,
and
so you were getting into trouble.
Oh yeah, I was a dick. I wasn't a dick. I was actually really nice. I was just really mischievous.
Yep.
And they were screaming at me, and I was crying like a little bitch. And they were like, "Well, what do you want to? What do you even want to do? You got to do something because this is just not working out." And I said, "Oh, I've always wanted to play the drums. I did. Maybe I just really want to play the drums." And they were like, "Well, fine. You're gonna work for us, and you're gonna get a drum set." And I was like, "Okay." And then I got it.
That's amazing.
And it was a Pearl Export series, and
that's a great drum kit to start off on.
Yeah,
that's a great drum kit to play now.
It really is. I really like it, and or I liked it. I still have some of the pieces.
Yeah,
I think. Anyways, yeah, and but I didn't know how good I was gonna be. I didn't. And then I just remember slowly, friends started coming over, and my parents started bringing their friends over, and they're like, "Hey, you can actually kind of play." And so then I just that was enough motivation to just keep trying.
Yeah.
And I got good pretty quick on my own, and then I started getting lessons, and then.
So you were self-taught to that point?
I was self-taught. A couple years in.
How were you figuring, were you listening to records, figuring out stuff? Were you watching other people? Were you completely making it up?
A little bit of all of that. Yeah. I had some, I don't know. I'm a really, extroverted, I'm really social. And so I just started walking around finding kids who played music and played instruments, and then just like, hey, my name's Sean. You want to be my friend? You want to play some music? And then started getting my ass kicked. Like it was almost like this kind of like savant kind of attitude where like I would just walk in and like, you know, be like, oh yeah, I play drums too. And they're like, oh yeah. And then they're like, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh crap, I suck. And then like, but I wanted to get better so bad that I would just like rise to the occasion. And so like, that's like my, you know, like my never ending story is that I'm always just rising to the occasion. I'm always like getting my ass kicked and then having to get better, having to pull through, you know. And I still can't believe, like every time I think about it, I'm like, how did I get a scholarship to go to Berklee College of Music? And then B, how did I like actually go and, you know, do well there? Like, I have no idea, because I was not like built to be a student, like at a school, but I just made myself do it. I forced myself to do it. I think you can understand, like being somebody with ADHD, like you just kind of like have this ability to like acclimate super quick, like because you can like make your synapses fire and like hyper focus all at once. And so you just like kind of do it, or you totally don't, you know. It's like,
it is one or the other for sure. I didn't know. Yeah. I only got diagnosed last year, so up until that point, wow, I had no idea.
Dude,
it explains so much.
Wow.
But I also, like, I'm not hyperactive. I have what they would call inattentive ADHD, which has been, like, long documented. My grade 1 report card says, you know, he'd do better if he paid more attention. But it's funny because I'm, like, the opposite. I'm an introvert mostly, like, which is, like, why this format works for me, because, like, one-on-one I'm fine. In groups, I, like, shut up. Yeah, so for me, it's like daydreaming. It was like, you know, you may not be outwardly hyperactive, but it could manifest as tapping on stuff, which I did constantly. But also, it was definitely about like trying to keep up with the other kids. Like we, where I grew up, we had, and I would chalk it up to junior high. We had this really great music teacher in my school, and he was always like putting bands together and like doing drum battles with the students. And there were always these other kids my age who were better than me. And so that is the motivation. And just while you were talking, I was thinking, it's like, I was going to say it's the best motivation, but I think it's my only motivation. I only ever want to get a little bit better than I am. Like, I find if I see like chops dudes on the internet, it bums me out, you know?
Chopsdudes.com.
But it's like, if I knew somebody who, you know, if I'm like standing beside somebody doing that stuff, it's like, oh, I want to be able to do that. But if I just see like somebody in a video, I don't care. Or if it's like I've got some licks that are like almost that, but not quite, then I'll want to learn it. But yeah, it is. I think that social pressure is the best way. So these are all questions I had. So you started playing in bands with your friends, and was it always like multiple bands? Were you always like doing a lot of different things?
No, it wasn't always like that. And that's a good question, because it like kind of sums up this like constant dilemma, but also kind of like a blessing at the same time. So my first band was a band called Delve, and it was like I had only been playing for a couple years, but the dude who I started the band with, his name is Jamie Silverstein. He was the bass player. He would go on to, well, we became like best friends, and we're still friends to this day. I'm actually friends with all those guys to this day. But he like was this almost like Prodigy-esque, like bass player who he was a year younger than me, but like he was already like, he had a Music Man 5-string, like Stingray bass. And like,
he was serious.
he was already doing like, extended harmony and like already understood, like seventh chords, and like was already delving into jazz, and like, but like, so he got his like funk slapping together and like was way into, like stuff that most 15-year-olds like were kind of not doing or like not technically able to. So he was a very domineering and very pivotal role, like to how seriously I started taking it. So like this band was like these teenagers that we all like kind of like just were making this music that was like right at the edge of our technical prowess, like all the time. So it was like we were already playing in like odd time signatures, and we were like trading fours and trading eights in the music, like, and like doing all this crap. And like they, so I think that's what really got me like very good very quickly, because he would just, Jamie's whole thing was just like, what you should do? What you should listen to? What you should practice? How you should practice? And I was just like, yeah, okay. But like, I'm really grateful for that. So like, I'm this kind of weird mix of like, I like being a band guy, but I like not having a day job. And so I like being able to be a session guy. And I like being able to like be, in a lot of different musical situations, and, being a professional. So, it's like I'm kind of like always jumping in and out of band guy / pro. Yep. to make money, so like that's kind of like how it started, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. One question, and this is like totally a lateral move, but do you find it a challenge? How do you deal with like learning kind of the volume of material that you need to work with in order to, be a session guy, in order to work on a bunch of different projects and be a pro? Is that an issue, or is that something that you had to learn, or is it a kind of thing where will you like learn a bunch of material for a gig and like, is it in there forever?
It kind of is in there forever, whether I want it there or not.
Right.
It is. And that's kind of the way I've always been.
But do you pick it up quickly?
Yeah, I pick it up quickly, but I also spend a lot of time digesting and memorizing and like taking ownership of the material. That's why I am entrusted with, these gigs that I've been offered, like from Everclear to Smash Mouth to Buckcherry to like all the bigger acts that I've played in. It's because of the reputation I have of like, owning the material and like doing my due diligence to do it. But I rarely write charts for stuff, even though I can, and even though I do read. I just like to really know it. So I'll put myself through a lot more than I think most people will feel comfortable doing. But that usually ends up, that's kind of like what, I don't know. It's kind of what gave me my name a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and also like it is the thing of like, if you are reading it, you haven't really internalized it. You're still relying on something.
And, the argument can be made that there are some dudes out there who can read a chart down first time and they can play it like, with feeling and with emotion. And fuck those guys. They're a bunch of dicks and I hate them. And let's go club them in the kneecaps so we can take their gigs.
Done.
Okay? All right?
Yeah, I find it's both a challenge. Like I'm lucky in the sense that it's like once I finally learn the thing, it'll just stay with me, but it does take some doing, and I'm charting it out helps sort of, but not really, because I'm not like my mind is not really in the chart. If I lose my spot in it, then obviously it's a skill that you can develop, but I have to be like really thinking about the chart in order to stay with it. Yeah. So I find it's not a great not a great tool for me. But I also just reminded of a time when I was in school. Joey Barron came by, and he was like, "Let's play something," and he got a piano player to sit down, and they like called out a tune, and this piano player. I can't remember who it was now, but got out the real book and put it on the stand. And then he's like, "Put that away. Fuck that book. That book's a piece of shit." We're like, whoa. And he's like, nah, and then, so book gets put away. And he's like, "All I'm saying is, if you got to read it, you don't really know it." We're like, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Point made.
I mean, yeah. He's right. He's right.
Yeah, a little intense, but his thing, it was actually amazing. He like talked for 3.5 hours, and he was just like on a tangent the entire time. But yeah, it definitely was not clear what he meant initially.
Fuck that book. That book is a piece of shit. No, it's a tool. Like all that stuff is just it's a tool, man. Like, okay, yeah, dude. Like, maybe I don't know all the tunes you're calling out at this like jazz casual. I'll go back and check them out sometime. Like the one, like I'll take that upon myself to be like, oh, I don't know Satin Doll as well as I thought I did. Let's go back and review. Like, whatever. But like, yeah, I'm going to use it because I don't shed Satin Doll every day of my life. Like, go fuck yourself, dude. Like, you know, I'm just using Satin Doll as an example. Like, it could be anything, but
I know, but it's like, well, whatever. I know that I know that if it came on, I'd be like, what is this? And then it would be Satin Doll. I couldn't hum it for you right now.
Sure. Yeah. And like, good, because there's like, the real book is this thick. Yeah. Like, you know, because like, you know, go back to Baron and be like, Baron, come on, like, sing me all the melodies of everything in this piece of shit book. Like,
no kid, of course he couldn't. I don't know, maybe he can do it.
No, he cannot. And that's the whole point. Is that like it's a tool, man. Like, they're all just, it's all supplemental, like learning, like to help us, because dude, we got shit to do, man. There's new music coming out all the time, and there's all these standards we got to know too.
Yeah, there's a reason there's a reason it exists. Are you a jazz guy?
I like.
Yeah, I'm gonna call that sort of.
It's like I took jazz very seriously for a pretty long time, but at the same time, I was like, you know, pretty heavy into gospel and like some R&B, and like electronic music was very much a part of like something that I like studied a lot. But like jazz as an art form and jazz as a mindset, I think is like so crucial to like the furtherment of like live music, and you know, that kind of musical relationship is something that like I'll take to any style of music that I can, because it's all about just like being able to interact with what's going on at the moment and like doing new things, you know, like at like in the moment. And that's like what jazz like to me is. And that's like the whole point of soloing over changes and being able to comp and being able to like accompany a soloist. And like, so jazz to me, like, is just having that ear and that relationship to music, you know?
Sure.
Regardless of like, if I know I'm not playing jazz, like, you know, quote unquote, like all the time, but I'm definitely like in a jazz mentality like that. That's never going to go away now, you know? So that's how I feel about that.
Wow. Interesting. It's a lot to digest.
Does that make sense though? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like, say for instance, like, you know, like taking an album like Wayne Shorter, Speak No Evil. Do you know it?
Do I know it? I've listened to it. That's the one with Elvin on it, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Really. Wayne, Elvin, Herbie, Freddie Hubbard. It's disgusting. Bestest.
Wild.
And like, I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah.
But like, you know, you take any like, you know, jazz record like that and you get together with your buddies and you try to recreate that by like everybody listening at the same time and trying to make new things happen at the same time. And like you do that enough, and then every like musical situation is so much more of a playground and so much more of like a laboratory,
right,
rather than some kind of like static like recreating of something that everybody had to learn before they got there.
Yeah.
Right. And so like, that's like the spirit of jazz to me. And so like when you have that understanding and when more people have that understanding in the room that you're making music, it's just like, that is like exhilarating. And like, that is exciting to me. And there's all kinds of like, I'm not saying that it's the only way that music is exciting. That's not true. I'm just saying that like, that's something that I hope I can keep practicing with musicians that I play with, I think, you know?
For sure. That's it. And the listening is so huge, and it's a thing that I don't know. I guess it's not obvious in a way, but the being able to hear all of it. I know there's thing I do out here, which couldn't happen this year, but Jerry Granelli, he's a jazz drummer. He's from San Francisco originally, best known for being the drummer in the Vince Guaraldi trio, and was like, so anyway, he also was like a free jazz guy and has been since the 60s or whatever. So he does like a free improvisation workshop. It's not, you have to pay to go, but it's like improvised music workshop. But like listening exercises are a huge part of it. And it's like, you know, every day starts with meditation, and it's like, go outside, take your shoes off and walk around in the grass and see if you can hear it. It's like, and the idea is like, you know, if you're in a group and 5 of you are improvising or more, can you hear everything that's going on?
Yeah. Right. Totally, man. I love that you started it there at something like that, sensitive and abstract, because, you know, it's a good point, and it's kind of right, you know, like he's right by using that as an example, as an exercise, because I mean, dude, I know what it's like to, as I'm sure you do, to like, you know, when your ears are more in tune with like everything, and, you know, like, it's like when you do enough of that sensitive listening and interacting, and then you can get that smashed out of you by doing too much like bonehead, like bashing of like rock tunes or just, you know, and I don't like being there. I don't like being in a place where like my sensitivity is like bashed out of my head, but I've been there, you know, like after like a whole summer of like a rock tour or something, and then going back to like trying to, you know, do some like more heavy, like cerebral shit, and just like not being able to like, you know, get there. Yeah. Like like it's almost like kind of emotionally like soul crushing. You're like, oh, but wait a minute, it's like I could do that at one time. Like, why can't I right now? It's like, well, dude, because you've been sitting there like you gotta relax, like get back into it, you know, like you have to spend time, like, you know, with the subtleties.
Oh yeah. Well, and it also is like, you know, part of it is headspace, part of it is just because like there is a thing, and I would say more so as a younger person who didn't know better for me, but it's like, you know, spending a lot of time playing on your own doesn't necessarily lead to playing with other people. But also, right. I would say like the first time I did that workshop particularly, it was so tough because it was like an ego thing. Like, I can't do this. Why can't I do this? I'm good at what I'm usually good, you know? Like,
yeah.
And then once I got over it, I took a few years off, and then I went back. And last time I did it, last summer, I think, was like amazing because I was ready for it. But you have to be prepared to suck. Like, you have to be prepared to walk in and be like, I know what the fuck I'm doing. Like,
yeah,
I recognize, but even that, you still have to be committed enough to give it everything, because if you're not, then you're still like, that you're just aware that you suck and there's no, you can't recover.
Yeah, there's a really good, I'll always remember what he said because it was the situation that he said it. A drummer friend of mine named Sean Horton. Do you know the name Sean Horton?
No, I don't.
Man, this dude is just like, he's one of the heaviest cats. I mean, he's played with Thundercat and like
is he? So I saw Thundercat a few years ago. Would he have been playing with them?
I don't know. I mean, it's a pretty small revolving circle. It's either going to be Thomas Pridgeon, Justin Brown, or, you know, like very few people will sub on that gig. So I don't know. But Sean Horton, he's a friend of mine. We're both Peisty artists, and it was this thing that he said because it was like. It was at this this little session, like a residency that this band had at this club called Libertine, and it was like you know, like funk stuff, like funk jazzy mess on like Monday nights, and we were just like sitting around after the gig, and he's like, man, you got to, like, if you want to hang with these dudes, like you gotta get your ego crushed, and like you have to like let it be crushed. Like it's almost like you just gotta like lay it down at the altar, you know, and just like get your ass handed to you, because like that, like when you really bring that humility, that's when you're the most receptive to like really listening, and like that's when you're the most vulnerable to like you know, that's what like music demands of you, is to be that humble and to like feel that, you know, just like, all right, music, all right, you know, everything, like what do you got? And most people aren't really willing to do that. They're going to hold on to their fragile egos like as much as possible, and they don't even realize that like that outer shell is what's stopping them from like being really dope. Like, you know,
trusting.
Yeah,
because like you got to trust that it's like, okay, if I let go of all of my ideas and all my like skills or whatever, that something is going to be there. Like I'm going to be able to hold on, because I know like I would be terrified to get on stage with that band.
Yeah,
having seen them once.
Totally right, and I mean, you know, like, yeah, like whatever opportunities you could possibly think of that are the most terrifying, like musically, are the ones you should be like trying to give yourself no excuse but to have to do, you know. Right. like it's so shitty that that's the truth, but it is. And like every single time my heart has been in my throat while playing with some dudes who are beating the garbage out of me, those are the times that I'm always going to remember, because they made me better. Like, sorry, just you got to do it. I don't know. Like, there's no way around it.
Well, this is right because and like about it's like the thing you're saying earlier with your band where you're playing at the edge of your ability. It's like if you're in your comfort zone, you're not getting better.
Yeah,
like why would you? How could you?
Yeah, and you know one of the only other times other than that band when I was in high school that was like that was my trio called Something Bot Metro.
I looked up some stuff.
And we like at the, you know, we had our little time at the Baked Potato, and those gigs at the Baked Potato were like the most exhilarating to me. More exhilarating than any gig that I did with Everclear in front of thousands of people or Buckcherry in front of thousands of people. Like, no, dude, it was knowing that like in that small room of like maximum 200 people, you know, like that there was a table of drummers that were watching me with their arms folded, like seeing me play with only two other guys on stage with like no singer, all original stuff, like just, you know, like every lick was like being scrutinized over. Every idea I was playing was being like fine tooth comb, like ripped apart. I was just like, but like that was the like, dude, those were the moments, like, you know, and I can't wait for those to happen like again.
Yeah, sure. Right. Well, that's because in that situation also it's like you don't get to rely on the fact that like these songs are hits. Like you had to come up with. So with that band, was it what was the ratio of like written to improvised? Would it be like jazz style where you got a head and then you do some solos, or?
I'd say about 60% improvised, 40% written.
Cool.
Yeah, because like, you know, we would have like vamps.
Yep.
And stuff like that, but like, you know, like, so a lot of the stuff was like definitely arranged, but a lot of it was like, you know, cues, musical cues, to where like we'd know to go into like another like vamp or, you know, like orchestrated section.
Yeah, that's what I was watching a video earlier where it was like it seemed like there was a part where like it was kind of jamming out, but then it switched to like an odd time groove, which is like if that was a coincidence, it's quite a coincidence. It seemed more like there was like okay, we're going into this.
Yeah. So that would depend on the tune, and it would also depend on the section of the tune, because like, you know, like that band was so unique in the sense that like, you know, we'd spend a lot of time like, because we all had like a jazz or classical background. Like the other two dudes, Jesse Charland and Dylan Charbonneau, they went to New England Conservatory, and so they had a lot more classical training. So that I think is what gave that band more of this like they're like the composition, like they would want a lot more control over it, but it would still be so like jazzy in its idiom. But then they could also like solo their asses off too. So it was like this really cool, like we'd get together and just be like, well, what if we just like did this and then just like built it in intensity, and then you just cue us when you want to do the next thing, you know? So it was like a lot of like really unique part building, I guess.
Yeah. Cool.
So I like that aspect of it a lot.
And it was keys, bass, drums.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. And we would like, you know, like once the Baked Potato, like, you know, started having us back more frequently, we would bring like guests to come in and, you know, like either bring their instruments or like, you know, some vocalists, like we had the singer of Hoobastank, come in and do like a Fiona Apple tune with us. Like it was like super fun. Like we would just do whatever we wanted, and our fan base was so weird for the baked potato. Like,
so what's the baked potato for? I don't know, but also for my audience.
Yeah. The baked potato is like a super legendary West Coast jazz club based in Sherman Oaks, California. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so like that was kind of like one of my childhood dreams to ever play there, and the fact that I got to play there multiple times was just like, that was super neat to me.
Yeah. How long has it been open? Like since the Chet Baker days, or?
Oh my God. I don't know.
Okay.
Don't know.
Yeah.
Don Randy, keys player, is the guy who started it, and now his son Justin Randy owns and operates it. So yeah,
cool.
But like all the heavies will stop through there.
Yeah, cool. Isn't that amazing too? That like for it being a legendary, I've been there. I have been to the Village Vanguard though, and it's like it's tiny.
Yeah,
I mean, that's such as jazz in a way.
I know, right?
Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure, I don't know who owns the building or what their deal is with rent, but it can't be cheap to operate that place.
Yeah, like just like any small jazz joint, right now, all of them are at risk of closing down for good. It's so sad. It's so sad.
I read a thing that said 90% of venues, like worldwide, just see ya. Awful, right? Like, yeah, terrifying, horrible. Okay, let's talk about something happier. So, you were so we're gonna back up a little bit. So you were a youth playing drums. You're playing in bands. Oh, this is the other thing that I was gonna say that made you think it's like. You had the extrovert version. I just had the introvert version where I had like, if I wasn't like playing music at lunchtime, I just would be wandering around by myself. So
yeah.
But it's a similar kind of thing where it was like, this gave me something to do. It was like a thing that made sense. And so, okay, so you're playing on your own. You're playing in bands, getting good. You are from Los Angeles. I think we skipped over that part.
Yep, from there.
Yeah. Cool.
Born and raised.
You like it there?
I do. I don't want. It's really hard. It's almost like it's forcing people out at this point. It's making it harder to love it here. But I really don't want to leave. I don't want to move.
What's forcing people out? Like cost of living versus pandemic, or?
Yeah, cost of living. The fact that so many things are still just shut down here. Mostly cost of living, though. It's so stupid. It's so stupid how expensive it is to live here. I hate it.
Yeah, but yet it's like where everything is.
Yep, and that they lord that over you.
Yeah. Okay. So I also read that you were self-taught. Then you started taking lessons with Zorro. Is that correct?
I did. Yeah, I started taking lessons with him towards the kind of like end of my high school time, and like going into Berklee. Mm-hmm. And
were those two things connected? Were you like taking like what prompted you to go to Berklee?
The fact that it was the first school that I applied to and auditioned for. Mm-hmm. And
did you go there to audition?
No, I actually I went to Berklee in LA, which was a summer program. I went to two of them, two consecutive summers. And was able to get a better feel for the school through that program.
I would think so. Where did they hold it?
They held it at Montclair College. Yeah, it was a really great experience. That campus was gorgeous, and like I was on cloud nine. Couldn't believe that, you know, they let all of these high school kids basically like live in the dorms on this college campus for like a week.
Yeah.
Was it 2 weeks? Shit, I can't remember. I think it was 2 weeks. 2 weeks. God, I can't believe I didn't get in more trouble. I must have really took it seriously.
You must have really loved it.
Jeez, man. I think I only got drunk like the last day.
Yeah.
And wow. Yeah, I really took it seriously. Oh my God.
You had more important things to do.
But anyways, yeah. So that's how Berklee came about.
Right. Wild. So how is Berklee? I'm kind of curious about it. I went to a jazz school here in Canada, but I mean Berklee is obviously very well known. So I'm curious about what you did there, what you learned, what the program was.
I mean, Berklee for me was like completely life-changing. On a personal level, Berklee was life-changing for me because I had never been a good student before, and I made myself be a good student and get the best possible, you know, marks that I could, and I did. And so like, yeah, like I said, personally for me, it was life-changing, but then also like musically, it shaped me in a like, and I think in a really good way. Primarily because I didn't rely on Berklee's curriculum to shape me musically, you know?
Well, because you're in a city where everything is going on.
Yeah. And also like just the, like, I don't know. I was paying attention to like what was happening musically, like among my peers, and like what was being done outside of the classroom, you know? So that's what got me so heavily into gospel before it was like a thing that was like so blown out, you know, with like everyone talking about gospel chops and this and that.
Yeah.
Like I was like digging into that just because that's like, I don't know, that like I gravitated towards it, like just because it resonated with me.
Yeah.
You know? So like it was just such a flash growth experience. Yeah.
So I have a few questions there, but let's go with what seems the most interesting. What about gospel resonated with you? And do you come from a religious background? Was it that aspect of things? Was it purely musical?
I was religious at the time.
Yeah. Were you before going there?
I started becoming religious before going there. I was kind of like a born again Christian, but now I've kind of since denounced like that faith. But at the time I was very, very Christian because I grew up agnostic, you know, like my parents just kind of like let me do whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
For better or worse. And so yeah, like at the time it was like there was like so much self-discovery obviously, and like proving myself to myself, you know.
Yeah.
And so like this music that was just like not only faith-based but just like electrifyingly like dynamic and just like in your face, like just the dopest cats, like just playing everything over funk music. I was like, oh my God, what is like Calvin Rogers and Doobie Powell and these drummers that were just like dude, coming from like a white suburban town, I had no idea what the dick this stuff was, but I was like, yeah, you know, like all the linear patterns, all the freaking chops, you know.
Oh,
like,
no kidding. Well, it has become like the de facto, like if you play drums now, that's what you do.
right. Yeah, I know. And I realized that like when I started doing clinics at MI, and I was just like, it was just like in my repertoire. Like, it's just like how I think about, it's how I thought about certain stuff. Like, I don't know what the hell I play like now. I think I kind of got a lot of that choppy stuff out of my system to where like, I don't even know what the hell I'm doing now. Like, I'm sure it's still in there a lot, but you know, and like, but all the kids wanted to know was just like, hey, could you walk us through some of those, the linear fills you're doing on the snare and toms there? And I'm like, oh, I guess I do those, huh? Like, yeah, okay, well, here's some stuff. Like, I don't know, Gary Chafee taught it, like, but I guess I just listened to gospel music, so it's like that, you know?
Funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because it's, for me, it wasn't, I don't know, it never was part of my direct experience. So it's like you see these things coming up as trends more so. But yeah, it's, there's a lot to it. It's funny. So I had a sort of opposite experience where I grew up Catholic, and my family is very like into the Catholic Church. And so when I got out on my own, it was like, don't got to do this anymore. See, and it was, you know, and it wasn't really about like fuck this, but it was more like, well, let's see what else is out there. Let's see, you know, live the way that my friends do. But there is something when you like, there is something that I've come to appreciate, just about, I don't know, having some sort of like, I don't know if belief system is the word, or like, you know, there is something that maybe it's just something we crave as humans, to have some sort of faith or some sort of, feel some kind of like connectedness. I don't know. If you're a musician, it's like maybe this is I
think it's a desire for like purpose and comfort.
Yeah.
Because we weren't like, we didn't choose to be born. We like were thrust into this existence, and you know, it's a very unforgiving planet with lots of perils and pitfalls, and it's full of a lot of suffering. So like that desire for like comfort while we are inhabiting these bodies is you know, I think it's been very helpful for us as a species.
Yeah.
You know.
Right, because they say that people who have religious beliefs, like they suffer lower rates of depression. But that's also right. It's a thing that struck me when I went to a wedding, and I was just like, kind of like noticing some of the lyrics to the song. Because even, you know, as somebody who has stepped away from it now, I kind of like look at it with suspicion. But there's something to it with the like, you know, wow, life is so hard, and I screw up all the time, but you're telling me it's okay because I'm just like, you know, you still love me. That is so appealing, you know?
Oh yeah. I mean, dude, let me just like unload all of my like bullshit onto this like thing, you know, this entity that like is just perfect, and you know, will always, I don't know, forgive me even when I can't forgive myself or whatever.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it is powerful. Okay, so that's interesting. So, curriculum-wise at Berklee, was there a musical direction, or was it just here, this class we learn this class we learn this?
I feel like, well, the direction, Hmm.
And again, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, it seemed very like jazz slash world slash contemporary, but like you could really take it any way you wanted. Like,
Right.
I didn't feel anything being forced other than like just a general sense of like respect for like, styles of music that have been tried and true,
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool, and I think that's healthy. And again, I say it as somebody who went to a school that was very much a jazz school, and it wasn't really because I was that interested in jazz, but more like it was jazz or classical or do something else. But all my friends are going to university, so I want to go to drum set school. But the attitude was very like, if it's not jazz, it's second rate, or like this is the only good music or the only way to live your life. And so I was always somebody who was like, I was there certainly to learn about it, interested in it, but not there to really ever like dedicate my life to jazz. But the other thing with this place is it was in a small town, whereas Berklee, correct me if I'm wrong, Berklee is in Boston, right?
Yep.
Yeah, good. Phew. But it's like a city.
Dude, what?
Yeah.
You thought it was where?
It's a city with the New England Conservatory is also in Boston, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I
neighbors.
had a few friends who went there. So it's a city with a vibrant scene. New York isn't that far away if Boston's too small for you. So there's a lot of music going on to be taking in. I don't know. I'm like telling you this. I mean, you're the one who lived there.
You are. You are totally right.
All right. So, okay. Let's fast forward because I don't know where I'm going with this. So when you finished at Berklee, were you back to LA immediately? Were you playing in bands locally? What was that like?
I went back to LA and I was offered to be in a rock band that wanted me to be a member of their band, and it failed miserably and I lost a lot of money.
That is the story of I've been in that band
and didn't make any, and so I left that band and tried doing some other stuff. Some of it worked out, some of it didn't. And then I got the Everclear gig. Bada bing, bada boom.
How does that happen? I mean, it's the kind of thing that can happen in LA, but how'd you get the Everclear gig?
I had a friend through just auditioning for like different pop gigs and stuff. I met another drummer named Jordan Plosky who he was with Everclear for a very short time, and he needed a sub to do a gig while he had a baby with his wife, and so
to do a gig.
Yeah, to do I think it was a couple gigs while he, just went through the whole like birthing process and being able to stay home with the kid and then I think that was also like his, like during that time he just decided that he would, take his career in a different direction to stay home more regular. And so that was just a perfect opportunity for me to, or for Everclear to kind of try me out. And, it went swimmingly, I suppose.
Yep. I was going to interrupt you, but you were on a roll. Auditioning for pop gigs, is that the type of thing? Because like, so for anybody who doesn't regularly do that thing, I think it's interesting. How, like, would they just put out a call and you show up, or what?
Yes. You have to know who's holding the auditions. So usually there's a musical director, but there are a few guys who like are hired to put bands together, including dudes like Bruce Sterling, Barry Squire, Ricky Minor. These are LA guys who put bands together. And so you somehow get put on those dudes' Rolodexes, and then, you know, it's like these cattle calls and they suck, and freaking you gotta act cool and you have to dress like a dork and you have to pretend like you love pop music and you know, and then you try to get your foot in the door, and that's how those things
you
go
be
down.
Super positive.
Yeah, you just gotta be like, hey, what's going on? Yeah, dude, it's so rad being rad, dude. Check me out, I'm rad. And then, you know, like, he's like, yeah, I learned these 3 tunes. Yeah, let's do them. And then you're like, yeah, I totally love Ali and AJ. Like, oh, they're my favorite band. Like, dude, I love Disney. And then,
I don't even know who Ali and AJ are.
Exactly. Good. It's probably better that way. And then, and you know, and then freaking, and then you don't get any of those, and then you somehow still make it work.
Right. I mean, there's huge money to be made. You're in the heartland, the land of Disney. One of my favorite stories, one of my favorite Disney stories, my friend, maybe you know this, maybe it's common knowledge, but that there's a statue of Walt Disney in, must be Disneyland. I mean, maybe I'm wrong about this, but he's like pointing to the castle with 2 fingers. And the reason that he's pointing like this is that he always had a cigarette in his hand, but they didn't include the cigarette in the statue. I love it.
I didn't know that. That's funny.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so Everclear went swimmingly. How long were you with them for?
6 years.
Yep, cool. And what time period was that?
2010 to 2016.
Wild. 20. Yeah. So that would be a time of stories, I would think, too. Now, Everclear, as I recall from high school, were a trio, and then they had a fourth. They had like a touring guitarist, I thought, and then I kind of lost track after AM radio ish.
Yeah.
Did they keep putting out records?
I played on 2 studio records.
What are they called?
Invisible Stars and Black is the New Black.
Cool. I've also heard they were a great live band.
That depends on who you heard it from and what show they saw.
Oh, sure. I mean, that could be true of any band.
I feel like there was at least a handful of shows in the 6 years that I played with them that were pretty good. Definitely some ragers. There was also probably some of the worst live performances I've ever played in my life with a live band with Everclear.
Ouch.
Not my fault. Tell you that much.
What? I mean, at that, I was going to say like monitors, but no, at that level it would be alcohol.
Well, it's going to be the front of house sound guy,
right?
Or it's going to be in that band. It's the singer, because he was just not a very good singer or guitarist, and he wasn't really good at like leading his band.
He was an artist,
I guess. I mean, yeah. He was just kind of like, let's just call him a silly banana. He was a silly banana.
Sure, fair enough. Well, now that is interesting, and I mean, maybe this is a different conversation, but it's sort of, you kind of wonder, because now thinking back, it's like he definitely didn't have the biggest vocal range or anything, and the riffs are power chord riffs, for the most part, but they were a huge band, and presumably still are a huge band. They haven't toured up here recently. Like, I haven't caught a show. But
right.
Like, they would have been big shows that you were playing.
I mean, yeah, they were all pretty big. From like 3,000 to 30,000 capacity. Somewhere around there.
So 3,000, would that be a theater?
Yes.
Yeah. So theaters to stadiums.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
That's pretty successful. I mean, it's like, you can go far on not being able to sing.
I mean...
if you get in at the right time with the right thing, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
No, I'd say, like, it was his songwriting, really. Yeah. He is undeniably one of the, like, best, American songwriters during that time, for sure. Yeah. I'm hungry. What time is it?
Oh, what time is it? It's 11:23 my time. That means it's 7:23 your time. Do you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, is that okay?
That is okay. Yeah, cool. I feel like we got some really good stuff. I kind of wasn't watching the clock, sorry.
That's okay.
Cool. I appreciate it, man. So before we go, just to make sure we got anything, is there anything that you would like to talk about that we have not covered? The one thing I was going to ask you about was like running a drum studio, doing remote sessions, that sort of thing. But yeah.
I mean, yeah, like how did you want to?
I guess the question. Let's see what I had written down. I mean, sort of what I'm interested in is like, how do you find people, or do they find you? And what's the process like in terms of coming up with an arrangement that you agree on, where you're not like in the studio hammering something out?
Yeah, I mean, like, so I would say that people have found me. Yeah, and I guess I'm very lucky that people have found me, and that's because of my credentials up until the pandemic. You know what I'm saying? Like, because it's not very easy to hustle and try to find new clients during this time. It's not easy.
It's online or it's nothing, right? Like,
yeah. So I would say that like my clientele is based on people who have found me previously.
Yep.
Really. And then as far as coming to like an arrangement, what do you mean arrangement of what?
Oh, like musically, like drum parts. Because I'm just thinking, like, if somebody sends you a song, do you have carte blanche to play whatever you want over top of it? Because kind you're not in the studio.
Yeah, like for me, it's been that like the people who have me record on their things are people who trust my musical sense. But also, I'm very like with these people who tell me I can play whatever I want. I'm also very open to like knowing exactly what they're hearing in their head, and really trying to like honor that. 'Cause if I'm being not only asked to, but also like paid to like, provide a drumming performance for somebody, it's not about what I want to play over their shit all the time. It's about like what they're hearing and trying to like honor that and do it in my way. Cause obviously they want me to be me, but it's for their music. And so like that cooperation is very like important, and you really gotta you just there's no shortcut around like experience with that, you know.
Sure, but so in practice, does that mean like you record something, send it back and forth, or like I guess purely not having them in the room?
Like you know, I'll do no more than 2 revisions of something, you know, and usually it'll be like I'll send a first draft, and then if there are changes to be made, that they are very specific with the notes, because I'm not about like back and forth. If they have me do any more than like 3 revisions, then I'm charging them for that, because it's their responsibility to like, you know, like I know how good I am at this point to know like that they need to be specific, and I will nail their specifics. And other than that, then they're just gonna have to pay for the revisions. Like that's,
of course, yeah,
you know,
that makes sense. I mean, like you're a contractor in that way. So it's like if you give somebody a vague blueprint, and then you're like, not like that. Like, that doesn't fly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
You get it.
Yeah, sort of. Well, I really appreciate it, sir.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I appreciate you, like, again, like accommodating my weird time. I know it's like, it makes sense for me because it's 10 o'clock here and I just got home from work, but it's like dinner time where you are.
Yeah. And I was trying to hold out as long as possible, but
no, I know that,
dude.
Yeah. Cool. Well, pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, you as well, man. I'll talk to you soon. Just like let me know when when it all comes together.
All right. God, that's always such a weird way to come in. But little insider tip, since that's what we do here. I don't actually like record the intro and then listen to the entire episode and then record this little outro piece. I actually just fast forward to the end, and then I will record my voiceover here at the end. Anyhow, huge thanks to Sean for being here. I had a great time chatting with him. We got into certainly some unexpected territory for me. And speaking of unexpected territory and the way we left it off there, this is kind of coming out sooner than anticipated. I had a different plan for this week, but things have changed. My friends, story of my life, story of this year. I recorded 4 episodes last week. Some cool, interesting, exciting stuff coming down the pipe. You're just going to have to stay tuned. You can find Sean on Instagram at Sean R. Winchester. You can find us for the purposes of this show on Instagram at Learn Drums. Also visit learndrums.ca for show notes, past episodes, etc. I kind of made a decision regarding social media this past week. I've got like my solo music project. I have 3 Instagram accounts. Plus I sort of co-run one for the school where I work. And one is just my personal one that, I'll let it go for weeks or months at a time. There's the Learn Drums one, which is all of this stuff. And then I have one for my new band, the Sunnyside Uppers. And I had been trying to run a bunch of them at the same time. I decided I can only do one at a time. So Learn Drums is the main one while the podcast is going on. The Sunnyside Uppers one you can check for sporadic bursts of activity. And otherwise, I'll see you in 2 weeks. See you on the web, or I'll see you in your ear in 2 weeks, man. All right, later.